Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the program. We're live, we're national. It's the Tuesday night edition of the program. It is Election Day in a couple of places, and we're bringing you all of the election coverage as it's coming out. Randy Fine was elected in Florida. There's more updates that are coming to you momentarily. Cory Booker is given this incredibly long speech, very long speech. He's not even filibustering anything. He's just, I don't know why he's doing it, but he's doing it. And apparently he's doing it with an unofficial bodyguard because one of his guys was arrested for carrying a gun illegally on Capitol Hill. Listen to this.
A staffer for Senator Cory Booker was arrested by Capitol Police just before the senator began his marathon speech on the Senate floor. Kevin Batts was arrested for carrying a pistol without a license. Batts is a special assistant to Booker and has worked for the senator in that role since November 2013. Capitol Police told Washington Examiner, quote, "Yesterday afternoon, a member of Congress led an ID'd staff member around security screening at the Hart Senate office building. Later that evening, outside the Senate galleries, the ID'd staff member, who is a retired law enforcement officer, told our officers he was armed. Police say all weapons are prohibited on Capitol grounds."
So, again, that is Senator Booker's staffer that was arrested for carrying a gun. Now, this isn't a new guy who forgot, who doesn't know. This guy's been there for a dozen years and was carrying a gun that he wasn't licensed to carry on Capitol Hill. And I would venture to say I'm pretty familiar with Cory Booker's record when it comes to gun control. I wonder how this is going to reconcile. And I just want to say I like Cory Booker. I think he's a good guy. He's, not my brand of politics, but he's somebody that I've collaborated with and work that I've done in Newark, New Jersey, with the police department and different community groups and educational groups. And he's always been a very just nice human being, despite his politics. He's a good guy. And he gave the longest speech ever today. Cory Booker giving a speech 25 hours and 5 minutes on the Senate floor, breaking the record previously set by Strom Thurmond. And somewhere in between there was Ted Cruz. Remember back, it was 2014, maybe 2015. Ted Cruz gave at least 20 or 21 hours in his speech. He did an amazing job. But let's see. Let's go to cut number 20. Check this out.
Would the senator yield for a question?
Chuck Schumer, it's the only time in my life I can tell you no.
I just want to tell you a question. Do you know you have just broken the record? Do you know how proud this caucus is of you? Do you know how proud America is of you?
Now, I'm pretty sure he did not know how proud America was of him, because I don't know how proud America is of him, because I don't think most people even know what's going on here. But needless to say, Cory Booker is now the holder of the record, the longest filibuster ever in the United States Senate, 25 hours, 5 minutes. So that's the big news there. Let me see. Now, there's more. I got more for you. Special election coverage. Right, so I said Randy Fine won. There was another interesting, the Wisconsin stuff is still coming down from what I can see. You've got Brad Schimmel going against the ultra-liberal Susan Crawford for the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. And this is an interesting one because the chief judge, whoever wins this will be the chief judge, they will be able to rewrite U.S. congressional districts in Wisconsin in a way that gerrymanders them to help Democrats win elections that they likely have been unable to win. Not likely. They haven't been unable to win and likely won't win because they don't have the people. If that happens, that could change the balance of power in Washington, D.C. And you might see a Democrat majority. Now, my gut tells me that's not going to happen, but you never take anything for granted and you fight like you give it everything you got. A todo queda, as my mama would say. So that's what's happening there. Let me see. Again, Randy Fine in Florida. Let's see if I got any other updates on that. I don't see any other updates on that at the moment. But as they come to me, they will come to you because keeping an eye on this stuff, and we're live. So again, we've got the. I'm sorry, I'm reading as I'm speaking. So we've got that. There was another story here that I wanted to get to. Special elections. We talked about that. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Men and women in combat must meet the same standards, and those standards are going to be high. And on the domestic front, on the terms of terrorism and whatnot, Attorney General Bondi cracking down on domestic terrorism, going after the Tesla firebomber. They're looking at a potential 20 years. Meanwhile, you've got Luigi Mangione, the guy who shot the United Healthcare CEO and killed him. It sounds like the word on the street is that Pam Bondi's going to go for the death penalty on the federal charges. We'll see if that happens or not. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it likely will. I think when AG Barr was in there, there was some talk about reinstating that stuff. So anyway, lots going on that front. Now, on this other front, there's a few things I want to talk about tonight. You've got the first ever statewide bill to require proof of citizenship to vote. First state in America to require citizenship, proof of citizenship. Not just voter ID, but proof of citizenship. That is Wyoming. And we have the Senate president of the state of Wyoming scheduled to join us a little bit later to tell us exactly what's going on there. We also have some conversation with Chris Ruddy, the CEO of Newsmax. He's also scheduled to be with us to talk about this record 723% stock increase on the day of the IPO. Again, trading today, closing at $230 some odd a share, launching, I think, at $10 a share yesterday. So very, very nice. Very, very nice indeed. And then I want to dig into some of this DOGE craziness because there's all sorts of allegations against the DOGE people. Oh, they're doing this. Oh, they're doing that. They're doing all this. I think it's to try and throw you off the trail, right? They're finding out a lot of things that they thought would never be discovered. By they, I mean the swamp, the deep state. And all of a sudden, the gravy train is drying up. So we will keep you posted on that. Anyway, keeping my eyes peeled here on the election stuff because I want to bring you up to the minute results on that as we're live, we're national. And of course, we're going to take your calls. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
A bill requiring proof of residency and citizenship to register to vote in Wyoming has passed without the governor's signature. This law lists 9 proofs of citizenship, including a U.S. passport, birth certificate, and Wyoming driver's license. Proofs of residency are not yet listed and will be decided on by Secretary of State Chuck Gray in the future. This bill makes Wyoming the first state to require proof of citizenship and residency. The bill is part of Secretary Gray's election integrity agenda. In a press release, he applauded its passing, saying, "Today marks a pivotal moment for election integrity in Wyoming. Only United States citizens and only Wyomingites should be voting in Wyoming elections, period." Duncan Callen, your Wyoming link, Casper.
So there you have that. The big news, the first ever election integrity measure that requires proof of citizenship has come out of Wyoming. And passing with the type of majority that you need, where you don't need the governor's signature, I think that's fantastic. I want to get the scoop on it from the president of the Wyoming State Senate, Senator Bo Biteman. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Rich, for having me on tonight.
My pleasure. Well, congratulations to you guys for doing this. Obviously, it's a big night tonight, of course, with special elections in Wisconsin and in Florida. And you guys are ahead of the game with this election integrity measure. What was the impetus for you guys? Was it the 2020 election, or was it something else that made you say, we need to get this done?
Well, Secretary of State Gray and I came into office together. We both were elected in 2016, and we came in the Wyoming House. And we've always been champions of election integrity. So we really started then in 2017 when we got sworn in. We tackled crossover voting in our primary elections. And then when he went on to become elected Secretary of State, he took up the election integrity mantra there and made it his top priority. And he found some loopholes that needed to be closed. And hence this bill that requires proof of U.S. citizenship in our statutes now. It's in our Constitution, but it was kind of a, pinky swear that you're a U.S. citizen when you're at the registration booth. They don't actually require it. Well, now we do come July 1st in the state of Wyoming.
So now, Senator, something I want to point out, you just mentioned it, I think, and that was my follow-up question, but just to make sure I'm getting it right, is I think most states, if not all, it's their state constitutional requirement is for citizens to vote. And so You're saying that was the case in Wyoming, but you didn't have a requirement for proof of, and now you do.
Yes, exactly right. So I think it's Article 6, Section 5 of the Wyoming Constitution requires you to be a U.S. citizen to vote, but it doesn't specify, the clerk shall require proof of it, So that's just kind of how it's been. And hats off to Secretary Gray for doing this. We gave him some good rulemaking authority also in this bill. We tightened up residency requirements. And it's a great bill, great piece of legislation, and I hope other states pick up on this. And it wasn't too long after, maybe a couple weeks after this bill passed, President Trump passed his executive order. So things are moving in the right direction, Rich.
I love it. I love what I'm hearing. Now, I want to ask you a couple of more questions, but I have one that's a little bit out there. Do you guys miss Liz Cheney?
Sorry. No, we don't. Harriet Hageman has been a fine representative for us as our lone rep in Congress. In fact, nobody's seen hide nor hair of Liz Cheney since she got trounced out here a couple years back.
Yeah, I remember talking to somebody from Wyoming around that time, and they were so angry. So they were like, Wyoming's not a big place. He kept telling me, it's not that big here. We really don't like her. And I was like, okay, I get it. It's not like I'm going to see her. Yeah. I can't relay the message. So, okay.
I mean, she really stabbed President Trump in the back, and by doing so, she stabbed all of her voters and her constituents in the back. So it's still a touchy subject out here.
Yeah, I hear that. Now, Senator Bo Biteman, what was the requirement that you guys landed on? How do you, when somebody pulls up, is it a passport? What if they've never left the country? How do they prove that they're a citizen?
So, like you said, or I like that clip you played, elaborated. There's 9 different forms of ID or proof, so to speak. Obviously, a valid Wyoming driver's license, since we use the Real ID standard. You have to prove citizenship in order to get one of those.
Okay.
Tribal ID, passport, proof of naturalization, military draft records. Anything where you've had to prove citizenship is acceptable forms of ID. And just, it's easy to get here in Wyoming, so the naysayers don't really have a leg to stand on.
Yeah. That's so funny that you say that, because there's always a naysayer, and they always make it sound like it's really tough to get. And listen, nobody likes going to DMV or getting copies of documents, but at the end of the day, it's pretty doable. And to suggest that people don't have some sort of proof of ID, which, like you said, a lot of them already prove your citizenship, which is problematic in some states, right? Like I can tell you in New Jersey, it's not the case. There's still a loophole there where you've got people that are non-citizens that can get driver's licenses and they don't have to prove citizenship. So because of that, you can have non-citizens that end up on the voter rolls. And this is
because of that. Yeah, and because of that, sorry to interrupt you, we had to pass a law this session to make those states' ID cards invalid in Wyoming. So if say somebody shows up with a California driver's license and they can't prove that they're, not a U.S. citizen, those forms of ID are not valid. So we've had to play kind of catch up to what's happening around us, states like California and other places that are, going the opposite direction of voter integrity. We've got to kind of ramp up our efforts here too to make sure that, forms of identification are solid here.
So somebody comes with a California state driver's license, they also are going to have an additional document saying, well, and I'm also a citizen, whatever that may be,
Correct.
A birth certificate, a passport, something to that, effect.
Correct. And proof of residency. Now we have a 30-day residency requirement, which is also big because, you want to make sure the people that are voting they actually live in the district that they're voting in. And 30 days seems to be a place where the courts have landed on that's acceptable for a valid purpose for a time limit on residency. So obviously our Constitution calls for 1 year and 21 years of age. Well, that doesn't hold up anymore because of the 26th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and federal court cases that have said that a 1 year residency requirement is too long. So that's why we landed on 30 days. It's common sense, and we think it'll hold up in court.
Outstanding. Senator Bo Biteman. Now, what's next in the minute or so that we have remaining? I want to make sure everybody knows what you guys have coming down the pipe. Do you have any more first-in-the-nation legislation coming our way?
Well, we had a bill to establish paper ballots as the default method. It didn't make it this time around, and we're already out of session. We only had a 37-day session. So next year we're going to tighten up paper ballots, and we're also going to loosen up our hand counting requirements to allow candidates to, if they wish to have a hand recount, they can pay for it out of their own pocket and reimburse the county for those expenses. Things like that. Most counties, I think 22 out of the 23 Wyoming counties use paper ballots, pen and paper. There's one county that has touchscreen voter kiosks, but it does produce a paper ballot. We're trying to figure out a way to grandfather them into the system, but we want an auditable paper trail of paper ballots going forward. And other than that, we will do our best to make sure our voter rolls stay clean. And we also outlawed ranked choice voting in Wyoming as well this year.
Good for you.
Yes,
that's
a lot of good wins. Oh,
good for you.
Totally.
Senator Bo Biteman, let everybody know how they could find you.
Well, I'm on X at Bo Biteman.
At Bo Biteman, go check him out. Senator, Godspeed to you, Mr. Senate President, and congratulations on your bill. Thanks for being here tonight, and God bless. Yes, sir.
God bless.
Amigos, thank you. We come back with your thoughts, your calls, and reactions to what's going on tonight, plus a whole lot more news. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Valdez. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4Valdez. That's Valdez with an S.
You know what's interesting? For all the left's talk about democracy, they don't really trust it. Last summer, they kicked their nominee off the ballot without a vote, without an election, and they put someone else on the ballot without a vote, without an election. So of course they like some judge issuing orders or injunctions that stop the head of the executive branch from doing what he said he was going to do when he ran for the job and when the American people elected him.
That, of course, is the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, Congressman Jim Jordan, talking about judicial overreach and how the left doesn't trust democracy. And I have to say, I think he's right. Sadly, we see too much of this, and we see it too often. And this is why you see things like what just came out of Wyoming, these election integrity measures. You see things like Randy Fine winning one of the two special elections in Florida tonight. No update on the other one as of yet. If my guys in the control room see anything before I do, please let me know. And as well as the toss-up that still remains in Wisconsin, looking for those results as well. But the bottom line of my point here is this is a constitutional system that we've had forever. And if people don't like it, they can challenge it, but not by complaining and stomping their feet or by extra constitutionally passing laws that don't count, like we saw in the 2020 election, where the state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania all but decided how they were going to run elections when that's not a function of the judiciary. And we see it over and over. And these unelected judges, and again, the key, even if they were elected judges, some places do have elected judges. It means that there's a little bit more of an element of a representative democracy being used there, right, for our republic. But ultimately, we have to represent the people through the democratic process, small d, because that's what we do in this republic of ours. So, for me, when you have all of these judges that, and again, some judges are doing their job or they're doing what they feel is right, I understood. I'm not arguing that point, and I don't begrudge them for it. I do begrudge them when it's clear, right? When it's a clear function of something that they do, or it's not ambiguous. And maybe that's a difference of opinion, right? It could be that at least one or two of these judges think that the president, as the chief executive, as the commander-in-chief, doesn't have such authority. Okay. And in ruling on a particular complaint to the court, okay. And I think that's what they hide behind. But in a situation like this one with the arguments they're making are so weak when they're saying, we just want to make sure there's a system in place to do this. Of course there's a system in place. There's all sorts of due process in place. It's there. We don't have to make sure that it's there. We know that it's there. So now, what are you suing again, and why are you suing? This is frivolity. This is lawfare. This is them using their power to influence and control and to do what they want to do, and in effect trying to make policy or influence policy. That's not their job. And that's why this whole thing's out of whack. Anyway, I was about to go to the caller that was there, and they're not there anymore, so I'm not going to the caller. But I am going to go to another clip of audio that I wanted to play for you. Just bear with me. Here we go. And it is the former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, weighing in on this, saying that this is serious enough to have the potential for a constitutional crisis. Listen to this, number 3.
There is clearly a potential constitutional crisis involving the judicial branch's effort to fully override the legislative and executive branches. 15 district judges effectively seized control of various executive branch duties in the first 6 weeks of the current presidency through nationwide injunctions. This is potentially a judicial coup d'etat. It clearly violates the Constitution and more than 200 years of American history. To set the stage for this hearing, let me mention 12 former federal judges appointed by President John Adams: Richard Bassett, Egbert Benson, Benjamin Bourne, William Griffith, Samuel Hitchcock, Philip Barton Kay, Jeremiah Smith, George Keith Taylor, Oliver Wilcott Jr., Williams McClung, Charles McGill, and Williams Tillman. President Adams appointed these federal judges on his way out of office to hamstring the incoming President Thomas Jefferson's agenda. President Jefferson concluded that impeaching the judges would take too much time. He and the Congress simply abolished the courts in which they served via the Judiciary Act of 1802. This is a constitutional balance of power. The legislative and executive branches can reshape the judiciary branch. It is a useful reminder in considering the current situation.
That, again, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. It's a useful reminder in considering the current situation is how he ended. And he's explaining the constitutional balance of power. That Congress abolished these courts as part of their Judiciary Act of 1802. And this is an important thing to realize because I think understanding our history, and I don't claim to be a historian by any means, but I've heard a few things, I've read a few books, and I think it's so critical that we understand what's happened before so that we don't repeat it, right? Like the old saying, those who aren't students of history are doomed to repeat it. That's so true. And I look at it like you can also be fooled by the same people that are trying to fool you back in the days. Our courts have a purpose, and we've drifted away from the purpose, right? David Barton, great book, Original Intent. It's about the Constitution and discusses judges and whatnot. Mark Levin, Men in Black, excellent book. I mean, these are books that you can read now, put them away for 10 years, pull them back out, read them again, and you'll get a different understanding from it, or you'll glean new aspects of it because of your own maturity. But I got to tell you, these are things we should be doing. We have to be informed patriots because these are the things we need to understand. And I have to say that when you look at like Gingrich just pointed out, more than 200 years of American history, we've got to make sure that we've looked at situations like this before and make sure that we're not hamstringing any president. And we've seen it happen, right? We've seen it happen. Presidents have wanted to do things and have been. Mitch McConnell, right, was famous for doing it. And he got a lot of kudos for doing it, but he did it to Obama. But Obama was trying to be shady too and do things a little bit outside of the norm. If you do things outside of, as they say, according to Hoyle or according to Robert's Rules of Order, then you're gonna find this type of opposition. It's politics, and politics gets messy this way. But you got to know what happened in the past. You've got to understand those things, in my opinion. Anyway, I want to get to your calls. We're going to take a pause right here. We're going to come right back to your calls. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue with your calls, your thoughts, your opinions. Open phones across America. Me, Rich Valdez, here with you, working the late shift till midnight, 1 a.m. in some parts of the country. And I want to go to Mimbres, New Mexico. Hope I said that right. KNUW. Let's check in with Sandra. Sandra, go right ahead.
Yeah, Sandra and Mimbres, you said it right, Rich.
Excellent.
And Valdez was my best and long-standing friend in life. So the Valdez means a lot to me. And
thank you.
Here's what I want to say, though. Oh, thank you. And I mean that. I'm not just saying it. It's very sincere. The other thing is that, okay, what Newt Gingrich just said about the judges and the way they're going after Trump and Elon Musk, Okay, we better figure out a plan because we can't exactly get them impeached. But we better start closing down some of the courthouses or figure out how to get organized in each state, county, and so forth to stop this, because all they're going to do is thwart everything he's trying to do. And he can't keep having to fight the same thing over and over and over with all these people. And we don't need it neither. So we need a plan, and we better put it together, and we better make it work, because it's even happening on a local level. There's no justice. It looks like justice. It's an appearance of justice in the courts, but it's not really justice. Okay, so we don't need to keep, like Newt Gingrich said, follow his direction, and this is after him, that we have to do something about this as we the people. We can't wait for somebody else to fix this, because they're going after them.
Well, listen, I think what I think happens here is a few things. I think you're right that you have to be proactive. You have to be on offense here. You can't just wait because right? And I think that's something that again, part of the reason I like Trump is because I think he fully realizes that if I do this, they're going to do that. And that's why he's kind of surrounded himself with the people that he has. There are going to be instances where he's not going to win every single, every fight that comes his way, but he can be aware of the obstacles. And I think that's key. So I don't know that we're going to be able to shut down courthouses and still appear like we are for the system, right? I think you have to maintain the goodwill of the people, in that we're not going to say, well, I don't like what that judge said, so we're going to shut down the courthouse. No, we have to make sure that you push back appropriately, right? And I think what Trump has done thus far has been appropriate. He's been out there saying, look, this guy is this guy has these types of connections, his family is connected this way, these are very left-wing people. Call them out for everything they've got. The real, I guess the larger part of this is probably the disheartening part, is that change can happen and will, and it does, but it doesn't happen as quickly as many of us would like. And oftentimes we want something to happen super fast. And the reason that it can't is the same reason that it shouldn't. For example, we can't do some of these things so quickly because there's a system that we have, a constitutional system. If we violate that constitutional system, then guess what? When they have power, they're going to violate the constitutional system, and then nobody has due process to go after what's right and say, hey, look, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z, and you're getting in the way. So I think there's a degree of importance to that, because we have to be able to preserve the system. And I have this conversation with my brother a lot, and I tell him, it's oftentimes, it's like saying, look, I need to redo my kitchen. And instead of, maybe redoing the kitchen, painting the walls, sanding the floor, whatever you have to do, maybe even, gutting out the kitchen and adding things out. What we don't do is burn down the house. We can't burn down the entire house because we need to redo the kitchen. And sometimes that's how we might feel. Is like saying, no, that's it. We've had enough. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired. But sometimes you do have to just say, all right, you know what? We're going to sand these cabinets, or we're going to take these out. We're going to put new cabinets in. We're going to put a new floor in. We're going to tile this up, and we're going to move forward. And sometimes that takes a longer time, and it takes a lot more money, and it takes a lot more experienced people to get it done. And that's just the process. So my thought here is you're right, and Gingrich is right, and everybody's right, that the bad things that are happening shouldn't happen. Granted, all of that's true. At the same time, we can't get to that level. So yes, we have to fight fire with fire as best we can without becoming the arsonists. And I think that's where the crux of this is, in that the Democrats, or at least the radical left within our government and within our media, they have no problem becoming the bad guys. None at all. Jussie Smollett, for example, he will say he was attacked with bleach poured on him and a noose around his neck, when we know this wasn't true. And it just happened again the other day with a city worker in Pennsylvania. People keep doing these extreme things to go to these lengths because they're desperate. That's not something we can do. We can't turn around and say, oh my gosh, these people came and they got me, right? Because then we're no different. And I think we have to remain different for many reasons, not just for the sake of taking the high ground, but more so because we're defending a system that we know works. So we have to actually use the system that we know works. Sandra, thank you so much. Appreciate the conversation. Folks, coming right back. Your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. No hair, no care, and live on the air, it's Rich Valdez.
All right, streaming from WTTB, Tampa, Florida. Let's go to Eddie. What's up, my man? Go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Yes, I wanted to comment. I totally support these tariffs that are going to be coming down tomorrow, especially like a northern neighbor, Canada, not providing enough security for illegals and fentanyl coming into the north. So I am happy that we're having these tariffs tomorrow on Liberty Day.
Oh, yeah. Liberation Day, as Trump has dubbed it, a very exciting time. And a lot of people, let me tell you, a lot of people, including former Trump people, are very, very scared. There's a lot of people that are out there saying this is going to make it cost a fortune. And the reality is it may end up costing a fortune for a little while before, it's going to get worse before it gets better. This is kind of how you wean yourself off of an addiction to foreign goods. And I fully get it. I fully support it. This is exactly what I voted for. When you say America first, you're literally wanting to put America first. and Trump is doing that, saying, yeah, I'm putting America first. I'm not going to allow you guys to import into our country unless you, do the same for us. We're going to have the same type of reciprocal tariff. And it obviously makes sense. Does it make sense financially for people who want to buy steel and aluminum and washing machines and things like that? Perhaps not right away, but eventually it will when they start making those here, because nobody wants to have increased costs, not the consumer, not the end user, not the shipper, not the distributor, nobody. And I believe when you go through these uncomfortable situations, you experience growing pains that will guide and direct a lot of conversations coming down the road. Eduardo.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And congratulations on your, I don't know if you're in that district, but on Randy Fine winning. And as we get new support, more information to support who might be the winner of that other special election, we'll get that to you as well. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And amigos, there's still so much conversation for us to have. We've got plenty to discuss. In addition to everything we've been talking about, we're going to continue our conversation with conservative media. Conservative media, Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy. What a great conversation that was, or will be. And also, what's going on with all of this DOGE stuff that's been uncovered? We talked about how Elon Musk discovered all these different things over the weekend. Well, I want to know what's going on with that. So we're going to talk about that as well. And, of course, for some of you, it's the end of the road. So to you, I say, hasta la próxima. Until the next time. Take care. Good night. God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the program tonight. It's the Tuesday night edition. We're live, we're national. Happy to be here. It's a real blessing to be with you. And our phone number is 833-4825-337-833-4-Valdez. It's about 7 minutes past 10 o'clock, New York time, Eastern time. 7 minutes past 7 p.m. Pacific time, like all of our wonderful affiliates out on the West Coast that are tuned in right now, live and national. And we're going to get to your calls and all of that stuff in short order. But some of the stuff I want to bring up this evening, of course, are some of the headlines, right? We talked about a lot that's going on in the news today. There was a big Senate Judiciary hearing today, but there's also the big race for the judges. And right now, in Wisconsin, the race for the chief judge of the Supreme Court in Wisconsin state remains a toss-up, with the liberal ahead by 15 points, 15%, I should say, with 48% of the vote at the last look that I gave. As that updates, I'll bring you more on that. It looks like Florida had two special elections, and of those two, one of them, the winner, Randy Fine, winning that one, and the other one is also looking like there might be a projected win there, but it might be too early for me to say that, so I'll reserve that until we move on a little bit more and we get a little better look at what's going on in Florida. Senator Cory Booker, nothing better to do with wars all over the place and all sorts of things happening in New Jersey. Cory says, hey, you know what, I'm going to go and give a long speech today. Why? Because I want to break Strom Thurmond's record. And he does. 25 hours and 5 minutes. He even needed his own personal hitter, right? A bodyguard, an unofficial bodyguard. And this guy ends up getting locked up for carrying a pistol on the Capitol grounds. This is one of his staffers, been with him for a dozen years. And I guess he's going to claim, like Jamal Bowman claimed, oh, I thought that was the exit when he was pulling a fire alarm. This guy walks into the Capitol grounds, on the Capitol grounds, with an unlicensed pistol, and I'm going to suppose that he's going to say, oh, my bad, it was a mistake. I forgot I had it on, blah, 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 you know. Come on. These are the gun control people, and they're the ones that are illegally carrying the heat. Anyway, and I like Cory Booker. I say that all the time because I do. I think he's a good man. Irrespective of his politics and all that stuff, he's a decent human being. But this is the type of thing that shouldn't happen to gun control politicians, right? But it happened to him. And I want you to hear this little ditty that I've got for you from Bloomberg Television. Lisa Mateo brings us this report.
I want to start with Newsmax because the stock's still extending its gains. This is after it jumped 735%. They had its IPO debut Monday. NMAX, that's the ticker, NMAX. They raised $75 million in the offering. Their share price gives the company a market value of more than $10.7 billion. And it was actually among the 25 most actively traded on Fidelity's platform. But what's really interesting, the founder, Christopher Ruddy, he's now a billionaire. He's sitting on $3.3 billion fortune. And the news network actually lost $72 million in 2024. That was on revenue of about $171 million. But shares are still on the rise this morning.
There you go. Chris Ruddy becoming a billionaire overnight as he sells his company for an initial public offering on the New York Stock Exchange. And Chris Ruddy's been at this for a long time. I've often told this story. I don't know if I've told it on the air, but there were times where I would listen to old tapes of Bob Grant, somebody who has served as a mentor to the great one, Mark Levin, a mentor to Curtis Sliwa, a mentor to Howard Stern. And Bob Grant somebody that I did occasionally hear on radio, but I wasn't an avid radio listener when he was actively on the air. I was too young and I was chasing girls in high school. But as I got older and I cared more about talk radio, I would listen to it. Even not that long ago, I would listen on YouTube to old shows of his, and he's quite comical. And Bob Grant, on one of those older shows I was listening to, says, I've got this young, enterprising guy that's coming on. He's terrific. He knows what's going on. He's got one of the best political blogs in the country. Chris Ruddy, welcome. And he brings on Chris Ruddy. And Chris Ruddy back then running a blog called Newsmax, newsmax.com, which became a streaming channel, which became a cable news channel, which became a huge overnight success on the New York Stock Exchange. And now I believe is worth as much as Fox News, maybe more, based on the current valuation of the stock. So, wow, right? Wow is right. And you guys know I've been a Newsmax guy for a long time, and I've been very supportive of the work that they do and contribute there every week with my commentary, because I believe it's a place where you can be fair. So anyway, we're going to have Chris Ruddy joining us. He's going to join us and tell us all about the big news, the great news. Momentarily, he should be joining us. But before we get into that, on this radio program, it's important to remember that you're going to be listening to this conversation with Chris Ruddy and with me and anybody else that joins our show tonight on radio. And if you love talk radio and podcasts and the news, then you got to have the best radio possible. And in my opinion, that's the C. Crane CC Radio 3. It delivers exceptional spoken word audio. The clarity makes it feel like I'm right in the room with you. The CC Radio 3 pulls in long-range AM and FM stations with exceptional reception, and it includes emergency features like the NOAA weather and the 2-meter handband. It also runs on an included power cord or a set of batteries that last over 170 hours. Now, the CC Radio 3 is the almost everything radio, because you can listen to your favorite podcasts, your favorite radio shows. You can listen to music with a Bluetooth device or from any smartphone, and you could send it to any smart speaker as well. So what do? You order one. I say order one for yourself, order one for your friends and the people that you care about, one to give away, and get a CC Radio 3 for them. Call their U.S.-based customer service hotline right here, 800-522-8863, 800-522-8863, or visit ccrane.com/rich. I'll spell it for you. That's ccrane.com/RICH. And if you use my name, code RICH, RICH, when you check out, you're going to get 10% off any order that's $75 or more. So what are you waiting for? Go to ccrane.com/rich, get yourself a few radios, and when we come back, we're going to break down all this billionaire status with Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our conversation on what's going down on Wall Street. And, of course, the talk of the town is Newsmax. NMAX is the ticker. And Joe Kernan from CNBC, the incredulity in his voice was just so obvious as he was talking about how well the Newsmax stock was performing. He almost sounded like he got choked up. Check this out.
I was watching it yesterday. I thought it was up 10 at 83 or something, but no, that's not what happened. Oh my God. It was it was at 10 and we had Chris Ruddy on, you might recall, for an interview yesterday. And I think it closed at 83, so it was up 73 at 83. Shares rose 735% in the stock market. for the conservative cable channel yesterday. Oh, Andrew, it almost seemed like too social.
Some bankers should get
almost seemed like
in trouble.
Get in trouble. I think they're happy, though. Chris Ruddy's a billionaire.
There you go. That is a clip from CNBC. And I want to talk to the man himself, the founder and CEO of Newsmax, Chris Ruddy. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, Rich. Always great to be on your show, and especially at this momentous time where Newsmax is one of the leading stocks on the New York Stock Exchange.
Chris Ruddy, I want to tell you, God bless you. Congratulations. You've worked hard for this stuff. Before you came on, I was telling them about how I used to be a talk radio aficionado before I even got into talk radio, and I used to listen to old Bob Grant, and I used to hear a young Chris Ruddy on Bob Grant talking about the Newsmax blog. And to see the growth that you've had since the 90s to now is really a testament to the American dream and, of course, to your own grit. So congratulations, sir.
Well, you go a ways back because Bob was a friend of mine, and Bob was a legend. He truly was one of the radio greats. I'm sure there's people in your audience that remember him. But what was great about Bob was he was never owned and operated by anybody. He always told everyone the truth, gave his very clear opinions. I didn't agree with everything Bob stood for or said, but I think he was a voice of reason in a very bad time, and especially in New York City. And he was really a role model for a lot of us. You know, people don't realize the impact Bob Grant had on people like Bill O'Reilly, John Hannity, Chris Ruddy, a lot of us that grew up in the New York area, Rich Valdez.
Yes,
and
sir.
so we're all continuing in that, trying to be beacons of truth.
Absolutely. And speaking of beacons of truth, we've got NMAX on the New York Stock Exchange, which is kicking butt and taking names. The last I saw was, up 1,100%? Talk to us about this.
Well, let me just give you the rundown. Newsmax went public. We did an IPO last week that we closed on $75 million. We went live on the New York Stock Exchange Monday morning. The opening share price for the IPO was $10.
Yeah.
And within a few minutes of going public in the morning, we were at $14. And I thought, wow, 40% increase in price. That's pretty good. Maybe we'll go to 20. And about an hour later or so, I noticed that the stock price was at $70. So if you had invested $1,000, it would be worth $70,000, $7,000. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So it had grown enormously. If you did 10,000, it'd be $70,000. So it was an amazing run up, and I thought, okay, well, it'll calm down at a certain point. No, it went over 100. It's trading over $200 right now. There's a story in Forbes that Newsmax is now worth more than all of Fox Corporation, which is worth $23 billion. So it has us at about 20 in the high 20s in billions of dollars. And but you know what? I don't know what's going to happen with the share price, frankly, and that's not my job. That's the market's job. My job is to make Newsmax the best news service in America, and I think Americans are voting and saying we want Newsmax, we like Newsmax, we support Newsmax, and that's what they're saying.
Chris Ruddy, let's talk about that. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening at Newsmax that isn't happening in the rest of media, whether it's conservative media or just cable news in general, because what we're seeing with Newsmax is quite unique.
Well, we are seeing some really good, Fox has become very establishment. They opposed Donald Trump in 2016. They opposed him in 20. They opposed him in 24. They seem like they support him now. He has said that he doesn't completely trust Fox. He's told people to watch Newsmax. He says he's watching Newsmax all the time. President Trump has said Newsmax is terrific. We're very happy that he likes Newsmax. But you know what? We cover him fairly. We get both sides.
Sure.
Fox had a policy a while back where they weren't allowing President Trump on, and they weren't allowing his son Don on. They weren't allowing many of the people we see on TV on Fox now. They were not even allowing on Fox. So I think
which strikes me as odd for a news network.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of agendas, And I think it's important when like Newsmax, I have personal views, but I don't have agendas. You know, if you love Donald Trump, you're on Newsmax. If you hate Donald Trump, I'll have you on Newsmax. And you know, Trump is okay with that. What Trump doesn't want is where nobody hears his side. If you watch CNN, if you watch MSNBC, it's totally one-sided. It's not fair. And the ad agencies all support this, and all support these liberal networks. Fox has broken through a bit, but he's becoming more establishment. The kids that are going to take over, Rupert Murdoch was a legend. He truly was a great man and has had a tremendous impact on America. So I give him all the credit he is due, but he is 94, and the kids are not what the father has been. So I think Newsmax is serving an important role, and I think we're about ready to take a big position in America. And I think the huge stock price in Newsmax, and people can call their broker if they're interested and look at the share price. They should certainly talk to their investment advisor. Our symbol is NMAX, Newsmax, and take a look.
Absolutely, folks. Check out NMAX. Now, Chris Ruddy, what is, what's next now that you're this big publicly traded news conglomerate and you're now this new billionaire CEO of one of the most actively traded stocks on Wall Street? What's next?
We have a big job ahead of ourselves. You know, in the last election, Rich, the Media Research Center found 90% of the press reports about Donald Trump were negative. 80% of the press reports about Kamala Harris were positive. That's not balanced. We have a lot of work ahead. And Newsmax is doing it. If people want to download our app on their iPhone or smartphone, they can actually It's free. Start looking at Newsmax, interacting with us. We have great channels on cable now with Rob Schmidt and Rob Finnerty and Greta Van Susteren, Greg Kelly. So that's on cable. And then we have a streaming channel on Roku and all these platforms, Zumo, Pluto, Samsung, called Newsmax 2. So there's a lot of ways for people to access Newsmax. And I think people should take a look. And it's very exciting. And we'd love you to become part of the Newsmax family. And if you want to invest in Newsmax, you certainly have that option as well.
Amigos, I want to strongly encourage you to get in while you fit in. NMAX is the ticker. Go check it out. Is the website still newsmaxinvest.com, or did they go somewhere else?
I believe that site is working. We had that up during the stock offering period. Rich, you have a really good memory, but I think if you go to newsmaxinvest.com, it'll take you to our investment page.
Perfect. Chris Ruddy, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Well, thanks for being here, sir.
Well, thank you, Rich. Always great to be on with you.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. All right, amigos, more to come straight ahead. Your thoughts, calls, and reactions to the Newsmax news and everything else that's happening tonight. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
Rich Valdez, who again will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez live with you tonight, live and national, and we got some breaking news. The liberal Susan Crawford has won. This is according to NBC News and Fox News, both calling the election for Susan Crawford as the Supreme Court winner in Wisconsin. And they are positioning this, at least the Secretary of State in Wisconsin, forgive me, it has fashioned this election as a Trump-Musk referendum, and I would say more so a Musk referendum. You would listen to this, and I'm about to play it for you, but you would listen to this person speaking and think that they were running against Elon Musk instead of against Brad Schimmel. Check this out.
Wisconsinites don't want a billionaire telling them who will actually protect the court of law.
This woman is so vicious. I mean, she goes in, and you would suspect that she's actually the impartial Secretary of State, but you'd be wrong. Listen.
So what do you see as the stakes of this race? Because Elon Musk says the fate of Western civilization is in the balance.
Well, the stakes couldn't be any higher because, look, we currently right now have a court that supports our democracy and that supports our rights. You know, we most recently saw how our Wisconsin Supreme Court overturned these egregious gerrymandered legislative maps where politicians were picking voters. And then in 2020, we saw how Wisconsin's Supreme Court stopped Donald Trump from trying to overturn the will of the people here by just one vote. And so Elon Musk understands the stakes. It's why he's put over $20 million because Brad Schimmel, the conservative candidate, has a record of being bought.
Anyway, so many bombs were thrown in that one. Too many for me to take apart right now. But what I wanted to focus on was this referendum on Musk. And they made this all about Musk. They didn't make this about Brad Schimmel. They didn't make this about anything other than Elon Musk. The media has been focused. The left has been focused, spray painting swastikas on these Teslas, absolutely trying to destroy Musk. This is exactly what they did to Trump. They have a new target now. And brilliant of Trump to bring Musk on. It's kind of like back in the days, they had this technology for heat-seeking missiles, right? They would drop these heat shields, so that the missile would follow the hot shield and away from the airplane. And this is what Trump is doing, outsmarting them yet again. So I think that's brilliant. Of course, lamentable that we don't have a victory in Wisconsin, but I'll give you the article here from Fox News quickly before we get your reactions to this. The liberal-leaning candidate projected to win a high-profile, historically, blah, 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 blah. Associated Press is projecting that Dane County Circuit Court Judge Susan Crawford will defeat Brad Schimmel, a former state attorney general who currently serves as state circuit court judge in Waukesha County and was endorsed by President Trump. With a massive infusion of money from Democrat-aligned and Republican-aligned groups from outside Wisconsin, this turned into the most expensive judicial election in the nation's history, partially transforming this contest into a referendum on Musk, sweeping and controversial moves, with respect to DOGE and whatnot. Let me see what else we've got here. Yeah, and again, front and center, the showdown with Musk. So this whole thing is, they focused on Musk, and it looks like they got their way. And I guess my question is, do the people in Wisconsin dislike Elon Musk? Because they didn't mention Trump much. And I find it interesting that, it was that easy to sway people for this type of race with all this money that they put in there. So we're going to get your thoughts, reactions, and calls to everything is going on. And I want to go to one of my favorite dissenters, Jerome, Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. Tell me how you'd like to disagree with me today.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
I am right here.
Shimmel, shimmel. Shimmel, shimmel, shimmel. Today is shimmel. Tomorrow shimmel. The world is shimmel. Not the day shimmel. Hey, are you just happy to see me, or is that a shimmel that I'm looking at, huh? Is that a shimmel?
Oh, boy. You're enjoying this a little too much, huh, Jerome?
I'm loving it. Love to love you, baby, baby. Love to love you, Brad Schimmel. Schimmel,
yeah.
Schimmelicious.
Now, what has you so excited about this? Talk to me.
lost. Elon lost. Donald the Orange Man lost. And the Democrats won. That's what I'm excited about. Yippity-doo-dah.
And that's it? You don't care about what happens moving forward?
Yeah. Hey, the more Republicans lose, the happier I'll be. Hey, tell Elon to take his $1 million and go back to South Africa where he belongs. Okay? Take your money, Elon. Wisconsin's not for sale.
Oh, boy. Well, Jerome in Charleston, South Carolina, let me ask you. I think this is particularly bad because of the power that the court has to redraw congressional districts and gerrymandering. And it's believed that Ms. Crawford is going to go ahead and do this, which could affect the balance of power in Washington going in your direction, where, Jasmine Crockett and AOC might be vying to become number 2 to Hakeem Jeffries. What do you think about that?
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. What does David Wayne say? Love it, love it, love it.
Oh, boy.
Love it.
Jerome in Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. One of my, if he wasn't entertaining, he wouldn't be one of my favorite disagreeers, but he is. Thank you, Jerome. I appreciate it, brother. Godspeed to you. And amigos, this is a big deal. Let us see what happens. I don't know what type of recourse the people of Wisconsin have, or honestly, the people of the United States have at this point, if they're going to be redrawing the lines of these districts and, in effect, giving them to their side. My hope is that it doesn't happen, but it seems like it might be a foregone conclusion. So we'll continue that conversation straight ahead. Plus, we've got calls from Ohio, calls from Idaho, calls that are coming in right now, flashing. I'll give you the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I rise with the intention of getting in some good trouble. I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business of the United States Senate for as long as I am physically able.
That is a United States Senator from New Jersey, where I happen to live, Cory Booker. And Cory Booker's a Democrat out of Newark, New Jersey. And I want to go to the phones to get your reactions to what's going on. Let us go to John, Brunswick, Ohio, WNIR. John, go right ahead, sir.
Hi, how you doing?
Wonderful, thank you.
I suppose you already know why I'm calling. I just want to give you credit on the year for thinking outside of the partisan box long enough to give your opinion that Cory Booker is a nice guy and a good person. I don't have a strong opinion of him one way or the other, and I don't expect anyone to remove the concept of hatred from their thought process, but it's very inspiring to hear somebody with strong opinions favoring one side occasionally acknowledge that they believe there's some good on the other side also. I think we need a lot more of that in this country.
I'm with you on that. And I think, I don't know if it's my experience. I've done stuff, in the city of Newark, and I've had to deal with Cory Booker on different occasions. And he's a very charming guy. He's a very nice guy. I marched with him once in the Newark Puerto Rican Day Parade. He was mayor of Newark. And when I worked for Governor Christie, again, he was a strong ally of the work that we did in the Christie administration because he was very pro-family. And I worked for the Department of Children and Families. So I can tell you that there was just several areas of common ground that made sense. Now, of course, he's in Washington, and it seems like he's drinking some leftist Kool-Aid, and he's gone a little bit further to the left. But it doesn't change, in my opinion, the person that he is. And I heard his speech today, and there was so much of it that I disagreed with. And it wasn't even reminiscent to the Cory Booker that I knew some years ago. But it doesn't change my opinion of him, that he's a decent human being, that he's a good man, and he really cares about the people of Newark. That's for sure. So I appreciate your compliment, and I think we have to approach politics this way. And there's a bunch of people that I don't like and I can't stomach in Washington. But that doesn't mean that I would not work with these people, and that doesn't mean that, because one thing I've learned in life, there are people I know from just looking at comments on Twitter that listen to this show, because we have been blessed with this wonderful audience, that don't really know me as a person. And they say things like, "Oh, that's not true. That's like so far from true." And I realize that they say that because ultimately all of us, I make fun of Joe Biden. I make fun of Nancy Pelosi. I make fun of a lot of people that I don't know. I don't know these people. And that's why I invite them on the show, but they don't accept, and that's okay. But when you don't know somebody, all you know is the caricature that's created of them by the media, whichever side of the media you frequent. And I frequent all of them. I make sure that I'm watching, every side of the argument before I make my opinions, because you have to. And it's when all you know is a caricature. And Trump is probably the best one, right? People, I don't like the orange man bad. I can't stand his hair, that comb over, this and that. Turns out it's not even a comb over. It's his real hair. All that stuff. To me, when I've had the opportunity to meet President Trump and interview him on this program, and I realized, you know what? It's very different than what most people think he is. And the same thing with a lot of other politicians when you actually, when the lights go off, the cameras are off, that type of thing, behind the scenes type of view of somebody. So I'm with you. We can't be led by hate of people. We have to be led by maybe our hate of certain issues. That's the passion that we bring to the table, right? And it's usually more what we love than what we hate. I think when people are passionate about something, it's because they love something, not because they hate something. But that doesn't bar people that hate from being out there. They're definitely out there, and they've made moves in history, as we've seen. So you bring up a really good point. John in Brunswick, Ohio, thank you, sir. Very kind of you. I appreciate the call. Hope you'll call back again soon. WNIR in the building. We continue. Let us go to Michael, calling us from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, America's oldest radio station, KDKA. I like to call it Wendy Bell Country. Michael, go right ahead.
KDKA, the great, with the 5,000-watt blowtorch, I think they called it. I don't know what.
Yes, sir.
Something like that. But thanks for taking my call.
Pleasure.
And I just watched one of my heroes, the memorial service for one of my heroes, Senator Al Simpson from Wyoming. Speaking of Wyoming, who passed that great law recently regarding voter ID and paper
Proof
ballots.
of citizenship. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's great. I wish more states would follow their lead, and I think their heart's in the right place. And as was Senator Simpson's heart. And I've watched this memorial service 3 times. I enjoyed it so much. Showing
The speeches must have been very awe-inspiring. I know a lot of times you get a lot of people remembering somebody that they care about, and it's just very moving to watch all those speeches. Michael in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, thanks for your kind words. Thank you for tuning in, by the way. I really appreciate it, and thanks for paying attention to the conversation. And shout out to KDKA. We're coming right back. We're going to go to New York, then Idaho, then Pittsburgh again. Don't go anywhere. It's Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I love your show, everything you do. So what an honor, really, to join you and your listeners tonight.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue open phones across America with you guys, we the people. and we continue. By the way, Rich Valdez, keeping you company, doing the late shift here with you, the night shift till midnight or 1 a.m. But right now we're going to, and then that's the East Coast time, of course. That is 10 p.m. West Coast time for many of our affiliates. So don't worry. We got you plugged in, whether you're on the East Coast or the West Coast. You are with us, and we're live and national, 833-4-VALDEZ. Now, we go to Latham, New York, WJJF, and we check in with Andrew. Andrew, go right ahead.
How you doing, Rick?
Wonderful, thank you.
You have a great show. Yeah, I was just calling about that guy that just called in from Wisconsin there, and how he's all so proud how the left won that seat out, that judge seat out there.
Yeah.
I mean, how brainwashed are these people?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're team one, and they're excited.
Yeah, I mean, they're destroying the country.
I'm with you, brother. Bad policies all around, and this particular woman, Susan Crawford, she. I mean, you could just see the Secretary of State, right? The impartial arbiter of the election was all in for her, and truly hating on Musk very openly. So there wasn't much impartiality there.
No, I mean, the whole system seems to be corrupt like that. I mean, I've been saying this for years. I mean, but it's sad that how we're just letting our country go to hell. I mean, it's crazy.
I don't know that we're letting it. I think there's a lot of good people out there that are fighting, but we today in Wisconsin, we got our ass kicked. And that's just the reality of it. And when you get your ass kicked, you have to work harder to make sure you don't get beat up again. And that's what we've got to do. So, you know, it means we've got to get to work in Wisconsin. And that's what politics for me has always been about. It's always been about figuring things out, right? If you want to win in New York, where you know you're outnumbered, like, I don't know, 38-1, it's going to take some time. You know, you might have to get married a few times, have a few kids each time in order to build a big enough squad to take on the left. But you can get there. It's going to take time. I mean, you look at what they've done to win places like that, New York, Colorado. They import the people. AOC is, you know, originally from New York, but went to Westchester, then came in. She was imported from Westchester right into her district. She went to school in Boston, probably would have ended up somewhere else in the country, but came back to New York, in particular to that district in the Bronx and Queens, for the express purpose of running for office. And many of them do the same exact thing. And then they bring their supporters in. That's why you go into all sorts of places in New York, and you find people from all over the country that have moved here for that express purpose. So I say we've got to do the same thing. You got to be able to fight them the same way that they're fighting. Andrew in Latham, New York, thank you for your call. WJJF. Let's see. With a minute to go, we go to Brody in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA. Go right ahead.
Oh, don't give me this lightning, Mr. Valdez. Let me tell you something. You have no idea how wonderful you are, and seriously, brother.
Thank you.
I get emotional about it. When Jim Bohannon passed, just real briefly, how did you get this job? And would you be able to hold me till after the break? Or I just want to ask you so much stuff, and you give me the lightning round.
Yeah. All right. The music is there. If you can hang on, we'll come back to you for sure. We got more calls coming in as well. Amigos, this is the end of the road for some people in some parts of the country, but for the rest of you, we're at it for another hour. So keep it locked right here. Don't move a muscle and don't touch that dial. Hasta la próxima. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the program. We're bringing you some election coverage tonight and some analysis to go along with it. A big special election in Florida. Both seats were maintained by Republican members. And, of course, the big judicial election for Chief Judge of the Wisconsin State Supreme Court in Wisconsin. And that one has been called by the Associated Press, Fox News, and NBC News for the Democrat, the liberal Susan Crawford, Judge Crawford being projected to win that race against Brad Schimmel. So we've been talking about that this evening. We also talked about the role that conservative media is playing in the marketplace, with Newsmax, NMAX being one of the top traded stocks all week so far. And, of course, lots more conversation with you all, we the people. Now, we're going to get into some DOGE and some government accountability and all of that stuff. 1,000 or 10,000 people laid off at the Department of Health and Human Services. I actually got a call, a text message from somebody today who told me that they were one of those people. And this is somebody who'd been there for a long time. This is somebody that is a true blue conservative. This is somebody that has worked on a number of Republican campaigns. When I tell you, not just a sideline Republican, this guy's a very active Republican, and who's always worked in government, both in the state level and at the federal level. And he was one of those people to get the pink slip. So the DOGE people are not playing favorites. They're looking to reduce as much as they can, and they likely picked him because he's, I believe, in his 60s, maybe he's late 50s, but close enough to retirement age. Probably earns well because he's been there for a long time, and that's probably why they put him on the chopping block. So I only say that to say it seems like they're trying to be fair, even if that particular instance isn't fair. This guy is actually somebody the government should have. He's a quality guy that understands the role of government, and I think does a good job to limit the role of government. But all that being said, we're going to get into some DOGE tonight. What else? We also had a little conversation with, the Senate President of Wyoming, Wyoming being the first state in the nation to pass a statewide legislative action so large, by such a large margin, that it did not need to be presented to the governor for signature. And that was an election integrity measure to protect their votes and require proof of citizenship at the ballot box. I think that was an interesting move. I'm sure critics think it was duplicative and unnecessary, but I would venture to say they don't know how bad things are in certain parts of the country. So hopefully other states will follow suit on that as well. And let me see, there's a bunch of things. Oh, Cory Booker gave a really big, long speech today. And I was just taking some flack because I said, you know what? As a police chaplain, it was my job to pray at times at town meetings. Cory Booker was once mayor of the city of Newark. And, he would open these things and then invite a chaplain to pray at certain times. It was my, a duty to go and pray. So I would pray like National Police Week and things like that. And, of course, he was always a gentleman. He always treated me with respect. Doesn't mean I voted for the guy. Doesn't mean I agree with him politically. Quite frankly, I'd say I disagree with most of his political positions. But on a few, when I worked in state government and I had to work with the city, he was very supportive of helping kids that needed help, helping families that needed help. And that was good. His administration was also responsive. So I'm not saying this to defend him. I'm saying there are realities in life. And somebody was just telling me that I'm wrecking myself by giving this defense of Booker. And I'm saying I'm not defending Booker in any way. I troll Booker like the rest of them. But my point is, as a human being, I think he's a decent human being. We just disagree politically. And I believe that I can live in that world because I come from Jersey and from Brooklyn. And in Brooklyn, New York, and in Hudson County, New Jersey, or wherever it is I happen to be, there's not a place where I can go where I'm surrounded by Trump people, Republicans, conservatives, half the time, not even Christians, right? So you have to learn how to get along with these other people. It's like, I guess, like being in jail, right? You pick a side, but you get along with everybody because there's no other way. You have to get along with people. So anyway, going back to the news of the day, the White House considering more tariffs. Tomorrow's Liberation Day, and we will be liberated from the trade imbalances that we have with other countries. Now, I am no fool, and I remember doing a whole show on this with one of our economist friends, where we talked about this could, in fact, make things more expensive in the short term. And that would be a growing pain. I got it. I remember. I happened to have been alive between 2016 and 2020. And I remember when people that were in the business of importing washing machines and dryers that are made of sheet metal and aluminum and steel, they were crying. I had one guy tell me, Trump's tariffs are killing me. My business, I'm 3 months away from losing my business if these tariffs don't stop. I can't afford to keep bringing this product in at this price. What am I supposed to do? Tell him, all right, that's it. We got to get on the radio and tell Trump to cancel all the tariffs. It doesn't work that way. Some people are going to get squeezed. Some things are going to become a little bit higher than they used to be before they get cheaper, before they start to play ball and start building things in the U.S. so we don't have to deal with so many imports. That's the goal here, right? That's the America First agenda. He's trying to get people to do it here. I understand it well. I agree with it. And I understand that it may cause certain things to cost more. I get that. It's kind of like saying I want to buy made in the USA. If you want America First, if you want made in the USA, right, the merch, for those of you who have ever gotten a shirt from me that says like Rich Valdez and the logo and everything, those shirts, I pay a whole lot extra to make sure that they're cotton from the United States, assembled, printed in New Jersey, right? All sorts of things here, because made in America is a big deal, a huge deal. And yes, it does cost more. That's just how it works. So does it mean it'll stay that way? No. Things can become more affordable, but they're going to go up before they go down. And that's just the reality. So anyway, Liberation Day. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to see how all of it goes down. And I'm excited to see what happens with Elon Musk. Just over the weekend, he had him and some of his DOGE associates were in Wisconsin talking about the results of an investigation they're doing, where they found Social Security doesn't seem to be as honest or on the level as they thought. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the buyouts. There's a second buyout offer that was made to federal workers so that they can be led or encouraged to resign. And I want to get your thoughts on that as well. So here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Elon Musk's special government tenure is coming to an end, 130 days, I think another month.
Yeah.
Do you want him to stay longer, or is it time for him to go back to running his companies in Europe?
Well, I think he's amazing, but I also think he's got a big company to run. And so at some point he's going to be going back. He wants to.
Did you want to keep him around?
But I'd keep him as long as I could keep him. He's a very talented guy. I love very smart people. And he's very smart. And he's done a good job. You know, DOGE has, we found numbers that nobody can even believe, like 400 billion, 500 billion. It could be close to $1 trillion by the time they end on different things. And he's led the charge. And you've seen a lot of his people. And these are people that joined up. I always say the high IQ people. I like high IQ people. And they've done a great job. No, at some point, Elon's going to want to go back to his company. I will say he's got, despite the way he's been treated, so he's an American patriot, but the way he's been treated with Tesla is just terrible.
Yeah, they're putting graffiti all over them, SWAT stickers, they're destroying them, bombing them, firebombing them. It's absolutely crazy. But Trump is right. And that, again, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president, 47th president of these United States, making the case that Elon does have to go back to his company, but he's been a tremendous asset to the administration and to the nation at large. And I want to talk about DOGE, the USDS, the United States DOGE Service, the Department of Government Efficiency. There's plenty of things to discuss. Musk raising many of those items over the weekend, like I said, at the Wisconsin town hall that he hosted, and so many other things that are coming down the pipe. We've got DOGE zombie programs in governments, second chance for a buyout that's been sent out to HHS people, the cuts at the at NOAA, the weather agency, and I want to get to the bottom of it with our guest, Jeremy Portnoy, is investigative journalist at OpenTheBooks.com. Jeremy, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Rich. How are you?
My pleasure. I'm doing great. And when you hear President Trump say that, you know, he doesn't want to see Elon Musk leave, but he knows that he has to, and we know that he's got this 130 days to do what he's doing, and we're around the halfway mark. What are your thoughts on what's coming down the pipe and how well he's done thus far?
We're really excited about it at Open the Books, right? This is something that our organization was founded on, this principle of cutting government waste and increasing transparency so the public can see how every dollar is being spent, and we can help hold Congress accountable and make sure that it's all being spent in our best interest. And ever since DOGE began, you've really seen that conversation really enter the national consciousness. More people than ever are talking about this and thinking about it and ready to really start reforming our government and slashing spending.
Let's talk about some of the stuff that you were able to dig up about more than 1,500 zombie programs. What are these zombie programs?
Yeah, so when we talk about zombie programs, those are federal agencies and programs that were authorized to spend money for a certain amount of years. That date came and went, but these programs live on anyway, even though they should have died. There's just over 1,500 of them that Congress continues to fund year after year, even though legally they aren't authorized to be spending any money.
How did you find these?
So this report comes out every year from the Congressional Budget Office. It doesn't always get a ton of attention. There's a couple of congressmen that have asked those to look into it, but so far they haven't. And this report tells us that they were able to identify dollar amounts for about 500 of these agencies spending just under $500 billion. But for 1,000 of them, they couldn't even find dollar amounts. They're saying congressional law is so convoluted and has so many missing details that no one can even figure out where that money's going.
So what are some of the specifics of these? Because what do these things have to do? Are they just fake programs, or are they related to social issues? What can you tell us?
It's a really varied list. You've got agencies on here like the Federal Communications Commission, the Federal Election Commission, agencies providing what we might consider core services. But then at the same time, you've got a program on here that's literally dedicated to studying red herrings. You've got studies on here about tuna fish, about water at the beaches, all these different things that have been funded. Some of them expired back in the 1980s, but Congress still hasn't taken the required votes to decide if these programs have merit and should continue to spend money.
Now, I'm looking at one example of those, the Legal Services Corporation. It was authorized back in the days, but it has not been authorized since 1980, but yet it's been sucking in $560 million a year. How does something like that even happen?
Right. We spoke to someone from that agency. They told us we would love to be reauthorized. We want Congress to take up this issue, but they just haven't. The experts we spoke to told us that Congress just has so much on its plate that they can't authorize so many programs that they can't keep track of them all and don't have time to take these votes to review them and decide if they should receive funding. It's easier to just continue to fund them year after year, these giant funding packages that a lot of lawmakers don't even have time to read before they pass.
Unbelievable. Folks, we're on with Jeremy Portnoy from Open the Books. And Jeremy, I find this stuff to be really, really interesting because the federal government, the DOGE people at least, are trying to limit the size of government. And we've got layoffs that are coming through, 10,000 layoffs just at the Department of Health and Human Services. Tell me what your thoughts are on that. Do you think it's going to be, I guess, successful? And do you think this is the beginning or the end of that?
Yeah, we're looking for cuts all across the board. We're happy to see that those cuts are coming at the health department. That's just a start. There's certainly more to come. So they're talking about this, right? They're saying it's going to save a lot of money in payroll. And at the same time, there's so many other expenses that come with these workers, right? Something we've done a ton of work on at Open the Books is third-party royalties that get paid to government scientists when a private company uses their inventions. That costs the government $300 million in a 10-year span. So when these employees are laid off, it's unfortunate that people are losing their jobs, but it really results in a lot of savings for taxpayers. And in the long term, we're excited about the impact it'll have on the country.
Really well put. Jeremy, let everybody know the website where they can find all of your amazing work.
Yeah, you can head right over to openthebooks.com to read all our articles, openthebooks.substack.com as well, is where we publish our longer reports. We're taking on a ton of investigative issues every day.
Outstanding. Folks, Jeremy Portnoy at openthebooks.com. You can check him out on X as well. I like to call it Twitter, Jeremy Portnoy, at Jeremy Portnoy on Twitter. Jeremy, thanks for the update. I appreciate it. We'll be checking in with you often in the future to keep up to speed with all the great work you're doing. God bless you, sir.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you. And amigos, we're going to get to your calls right now. Open Phones Across America is going to kick off right now. We've got calls from Nevada, Nevada City, California. That's great. I love the West Coast. Boise, Idaho, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're going to go check back in with Brody, as well as some other calls that we've got coming in. Here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. As well as richvaldez.com. If you want to check out the podcast and leave a 5-star review, feel free to do that. Always appreciate those when you do those. And don't go anywhere, folks. Don't move a muscle. Don't touch that dial, because we're coming right back with your calls and more on Open Phones Across America with me, Rich Valdez.
That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Look at the unfair trade practices that we have. 50% from the European Union on American dairy. You have a 700% tariff from Japan on American rice. You have a 100% tariff from India on American agricultural products. You have nearly a 300% tariff from Canada on American butter and American cheese. This makes it virtually impossible for American products to be imported into these markets, and it has put a lot of Americans out of business and out of work over the past several decades. So it's time for reciprocity, and it's time for a president to take historic change to do what's right for the American people.
Tomorrow is Liberation Day. That, of course, was a clip from yesterday I wanted to play for you of Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, just laying the facts out there for the White House press pool to make it clear. Trump is not doing this just for the sake of being punitive, but more so because they've been punitive to us. This is reciprocal. And I think that's important to know. And once, that's how you get to free trade, right? You start with fair trade and you say, all right, you're going to charge me this, I'm going to charge you the same. Then it becomes fair. And guess what? Eventually you can drop both sides of that and make it free. And nothing better than free trade. Amen to that. So let me get your thoughts on this and everything else that's going on. I want to go to Eric is in Nevada City, California, KNCO in the building. Eric, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez.
Yeah, how you doing there, Rich?
Wonderful, thank you.
I've been listening to you for about 10 months, and I definitely like what you have to say.
Thank you.
Because unfortunately, I live in one of the most socialist, commie states in America. I think the only one that's actually worse than this is probably New York. And that's
or Jersey.
Probably just New York, well, I don't know about Jersey. The guy who runs KNCO is from Jersey, so I'm not going to say much more than that. That kind of says it all. But it wasn't long ago that our Supreme Court out here decided that it wasn't necessary for the voters to vote on taxes because, well, it interfered with government. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I mean,
wow.
you want to talk about, judges that are one-sided. And, I mean, I hear judges are supposed to be nonpartisan. Well, that's a bunch of, horse hockey. They are partisan as they could possibly be, especially out here. And maybe, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it could be as many as 20 because, even though I got a Nevada City address, I'm actually 25 miles out of town in the mountains here, which it's snowing
That's
like
how you stay sane, right?
Yeah, well, there again, I don't know how they figured that one out. Put up a dartboard with, names and elevations on it and start throwing darts with a blindfold, I guess, the way they do with the taxes. But we had a law that said you could not be a socialist or a communist and be on the California legislature. Well, they abolished that law. And I was talking to a lady about it in one of the local grocery stores, and she goes, well, why would they do that? And I looked at her and I said, maybe because they were commies to start with.
Yeah. It's amazing how if you let people tell you who they are, they'll tell you. They'll let you know.
Told us all right. And I mean, honestly, Rich, if I could sell this place, I'd be out of this state so fast and heading to Idaho or Montana one.
I was going to say, would you go to Idaho? Because I hear that's where everybody goes when they leave California.
Yeah, well, that's why they raised the prices up there.
and they had their governor.
Few remote cabins up there that are affordable. And, I love the mountains. I grew up in the Sierra Nevadas. From the time I was 3 months old, I was on the logging job. And I'm still off-grid out here in the middle of nowhere, and I just really love it.
Well, make sure you get a Sea Crane radio when you're off-grid because you need one of those in the mountains. And, it's funny, the governor of Idaho, I remember early on, he came out saying, hey, stop coming here because we're getting too many Californians. Don't bring your politics with you, which I thought was very funny. Anyway, thank you very much, Eric in Nevada City, California. Great conversation. I appreciate the phone call. Godspeed to you. Keep fighting for truth out there, my man. And shout out to KNCO. Let's keep it moving. We're going to go to, let me see, what do we got here? All right, we're going to go. I'm checking back in with my buddy Brody, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Rich. Obviously, all salutations to how great you're doing. I got an official letter today from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs official business. Donald Trump recognized my father, who I lost on January 28th of this year.
My condolences.
And that was very, very nice. It's an auto pen, because I know we like to talk about that, but, it's a nice, I'm talking about? It's a nice thing. I'm talking about? It has a raised gold bar and everything. You know what? Joe Biden wouldn't do that for my father. So I'm glad that our president thinks about our veterans. So the reason why I held on so long, and I want to know, it's a part A and part 2 question. A, is this Chime thing going anywhere? Is the first part of anything? Are they doing much, or is just a bunch of steam like a some insignificant car alarm in the background. But the real meat of the question is, what is going on with this Greenland deal with, do you know the intricate things of it? Because if the people are into this, it may happen. So
yeah, so I don't know if you heard the show last night, Joe Brody, but we had the former ambassador to Denmark and Greenland, Ambassador Carla Sands, was on the show, and she gave us a very unique insight as to where the tug of war is. And what I took away from the conversation was the Danes don't want to part ways with Greenland because it makes them a player because of the sheer size of Greenland as a landmass. However, they can't really afford to maintain it, and they're not providing any upkeep. So they need help. And the last infrastructure that was built there was built by the United States. So she was saying it's kind of going to, in her opinion, it was, it made all the sense in the world. But she understands where their frustrations are coming from, in that they want to be able to say, hey, we got this, we got that. We still have, a sizable territory, whereas they would lose a big size of their territory. For me, I think whenever you can get the United States for free, if you say, take Greenland, sure, put a base there, do something. Now, it's kind of like telling the cops, hey, I run a Dunkin' Donuts and you guys get free donuts and free coffee. Well, guess what else you get when you give out the free coffee? You get free security, because the cops are always in your place, and that's going to limit the amount of riffraff that you have going on, especially, in the overnight shifts, weekend shifts, stuff like that. People are going to be like, don't go to Dunkin' Donuts and mess around, or the donut shop, for lack of giving a free plug. And, you don't want to mess around there because there's always cops there. And that's how things end up working. So just like Ukraine would have benefited from doing business with the United States, saying, I'm locked in with the U.S. on this deal, they could do the same thing. I don't know if they're going to. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, right. it is. It's a golden time for America, Rich.
What was the other thing you wanted to say, Brody? I forgot the first part of the question.
About the first part of the question is, do you think in your heart, do you think that the hearings on the Chime, is it called, not Chime?
Oh, the Signal app?
Signal one.
Yeah.
The Signal app, do you think they're going to be able to get anywhere with that, or is it just a bunch of steam?
I don't think it's a big issue. So I don't think that it's going to amount to much of anything. I do think that, again, behind the scenes, somebody's head is going to roll somewhere, because I've been around, and that's how things work. Even if it's not their fault, there's going to be a scalp. Who? That's anybody's guess. I'm not sure yet. But I don't think anything happens after that. I think tomorrow, Liberation Day comes in. That will dominate the news probably until Friday, when the Friday afternoon info dump comes, when all sorts of new stuff comes out. And that's typically how Trump always has operated. He's very famous for the Friday afternoon info dump, just anything that he can give you on a Friday, so that you can go into the weekend letting that simmer and marinate. And by the time Monday comes around, that's already been in the news cycle for 2 days, fully developed, ready to go to hit that Monday headline. And he's always been really, really good at that. So, yeah, I don't think anything much amounts from Signal. And was there a third part, or did I get everything?
No, you got everything, and you're a scholar, you're a patriot, and I listen to you every day. So just please, up and at 'em, and Godspeed.
Thank you, brother. Likewise to you, and the next time we're giving out T-shirts, you're getting one if you haven't got one already. Brody, thank you for the call, my man. I appreciate it. Shout out to KDKA, what I like to call Wendy Bell Country. And amigos, I pause right here, come right back to your calls. South Dakota, Vermont, Idaho, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, coming back to your calls momentarily. But first, I want to get into a little bit of this real quick because I meant to play this a couple of nights ago, and it's interesting, right? It's on the immigration topic, and there's so much in it that I feel like we've got to kind of go over it together. But there are people that have been trying to come into this country illegally through caravans in the Darien Gap and beyond, from Panama all the way up to Mexico to try to get into the country. And some of them were turned back. Some of them couldn't get in. Some of them were asked to leave. And CNN's Omar Jimenez gave a report on this. And I thought it wasn't entirely accurate from my perspective. But I got the report, and I want you to listen to it.
I left Cameroon due to political issues. Either I'll be sentenced death or I'll spend the rest of my life in prison.
Now, Ambo is one of dozens of migrants trapped in a sort of Trump-created limbo. These are migrants who have been deported or expelled from the United States to Panama, but they're not from Panama. These are all people who still can't go back to their home countries because they fear either being persecuted or killed. These are people
we're going to
from
pause
places
right there. Now, I'm sure everybody has a fear of being persecuted or killed, and this is why they're applying for asylum. Now, they may not get asylum because they just may not, right? Not everybody's going to get asylum. But he says that this is a limbo that Trump created, and I guess that's a critique that is fair for him to make if he wants to. But I don't think that it's entirely appropriate or at least accurate because this is not a limbo that Trump created. Because that presumes that somehow Trump had to accept this person. If someone comes to my house and says, I want to sell you encyclopedias, and I say, I don't want any encyclopedias, I'm not opening the door, and they leave, and then they drop all of their encyclopedias as they're crossing the street adjacent to my house. And now the cars are piling up because this poor man is now looking for, he's on his knees picking up Encyclopedia A and then B and then C and then D. And, he's got another 23 to go before he picks up every last one in the alphabet. Is it fair for those guys to say, look, this is what happens when Rich Valdez won't buy encyclopedias? This is a gridlock that he created. Would that be a fair critique? I don't think it is. I didn't create the critique. That guy did. I happen to just live here. And this guy happened to be coming to my house. So I think that this report misses the mark. But continue.
like Afghanistan, Russia, Cameroon, and more. And so for them, they're in a country where they don't speak the language, and they're trying to figure out what to do next.
When they got to Panama, they were never allowed to speak to an official.
Attorneys for these migrants argue their rights were violated every step of the way here. The Panamanian government has denied any wrongdoing, and CBP said these migrants were lawfully processed and deported.
They shouldn't just abandon us like that without telling us what we have done wrong. It becomes very, very difficult and confusing to us. I've left my children back home. They are not living with my family, they live but with friends.
You left everything back home.
All right, now I want to get in here because I feel for anybody who's going through an issue, right? Any person with compassion would. But she says, I left my kids back home. Did someone invite you here? Maybe the president of the United States, Joe Biden, may have invited you here, right? Biden had the door wide open, which is why I put the blame squarely upon his shoulders. So I'm not going to sit here and fault this woman, but let's just presume she was not invited by Biden, but she came here seeking asylum, maybe at his direction, where he was saying, we're going to help asylum seekers, we got the pressure, and I got hairy legs, right? Because he said lots of crazy things. So presuming that, let's just say she's half wrong here, half wrong for leaving her kids and deciding to come to this country that she had no business coming to other than to seek asylum. Now, she may have been misled into thinking that she can apply for asylum anywhere she goes, or that it doesn't have to be at the closest port of entry where she feels safe or where there is safety that's not her home country. And all of these things are real. So it could be misinformation. She might be misinformed. She might have the wrong information. Or it could just be what she's been coached to say. I don't know. I'm not trying to indict her or make her guilty of anything. The point that I'm making is that there seems to be an expectation here. Like, you know, they needed to do this or they needed to do that, or there should have been this or there should have been that. And I don't think that that's a fair expectation to have, given where we are today. Just because you're going through a problem in your country doesn't mean that we have an obligation to help you with that problem. We should help you with that problem, and there's many ways to help people. It's not always just come on in. So that's the point that I wanted to make on that. And I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I'd love to get your thoughts, calls, and reactions. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, we continue with open phones across America with me, Rich Valdez, working the late shift with you. And I want to go to Helen, Rapid City, South Dakota, KOTA. Helen, go right ahead.
Good evening, sir. I love your show.
Thank you.
Even though you're a Republican, I still love your show. I just wanted to tell you that years ago on public television, there was a documentary on Cory Booker, and he was running for mayor. And I just thought he was a stellar fella. The mayor that he was running against, whatever town he was in, had brought people in on buses and paid them to come to vote for him. So it was kind of bad. But,
yeah. He was running against Sharp James, a big political boss at the time, who ended up going to jail for corruption. And Cory Booker was seen as the reform candidate. He was a young guy, very bright guy, Rhodes Scholar. And again, like I said, affable, likable guy. He's a good politician. And by politician, I mean being able to work with the people. But does he subscribe to some socialist views, some Marxism? Yeah. Do I agree with that? No. Those things I don't think are great for America, but I don't think it makes him a bad human. I don't think it makes most people who believe in that bad humans. I think it means that we've got areas where we've got to work on our differences. But Helen, thank you so much for your call. Shout out to Rapid City, South Dakota. Not so bad, even if you are a Republican. Thank you. And got news for you. I don't consider myself a Republican as much as I do a conservative, but I'll take it either way. Thank you. Gary in Colfax, California. I'm sorry we couldn't get you on. Tony in Montreal. Sorry about that. The music came and we've got to go. But hasta la próxima. Until the next time. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.